Good morning and welcome back to Friday here on Gaming with ADHD. And I think some of you might be a little confused why I'm running the show because I'm here with the legendary Sam Healey. He's moved out of infamous stage.
I wouldn't say legendary at all, actually. I actually look at myself in the mirror every morning, so I am not legendary.
The legendarily humble Sam Healey. Anyways, but we are actually simulcasting over to Sam's channel on Flipside of Board Games. And so what we're going to do today, typically on Fridays, I come in and I just hang out with everybody in chat and we paint miniatures and talk. But I also, normally on Thursday, I like to do interviews with people. And I've wanted to interview Sam since I met him in March. So for all of 2 months now. Wait, no, it's 3 months.
A whole 3 months? 3 months of playtime.
I know, right? So anyhow, I'll kind of be like moderating a little bit, but I want Sam to come back and ask me questions and but yeah, we're gonna paint miniatures. We are painting what are we painting today, Sam?
We are painting the Abomination. I will show my screen. The Abomination is this little fellow right here, and this is from Zombicide Green Horde. So it's one of those games that I think we both really enjoy. We both have a lot of it, but
so much Zombicide.
Because there's a lot of it, it takes a long time to paint. So I am, I thought, what Brian did is he sent me a whole bunch of pictures of his collection, and he was like, we've got to have something that's the same that needs to be painted. And so that's we were like, yeah, that's true. Absolutely, though. I scrolled through, I don't know, you sent me like, what, 5 or 6 pictures? And I scrolled through 3 of them before I found something. I was like, I have that one. So this is what we're going to be painting today is the Abomination. And what I've done, and I guess we'll both kind of tell the audience what we're doing. I am actually trying speed paints for the first time. And so I've got some Army Painter speed paints, and I'm going to be trying this out for the first time. And a fella that sent me some pictures of the process that he uses with Army Painter's speed paints. I'm kind of mimicking his process, if I can put it that way. And so this is a black base coat, matte black base coat, and then I've dry brushed gray, and then I've dry brushed white over it to get it ready to speed paint. So he says that it takes him about an hour to do an entire mob using this process. So we'll see.
So do you have a whole mob? Do you have a whole mob just in case you finish ahead of me?
No, I doubt incredibly that I'm going to be finished ahead of you. This is, I was telling my wife this morning, I'm super nervous because this is the first time I've ever used any kind of speed paint at all. And I'm doing it live in front of everyone. So this should be interesting.
Well, don't be afraid to ask the chat for help. They like to be very, very useful. I've found that. So,
I'm sure that they will be. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I mean, what was it? When I just mentioned that I picked up the speed paints on one of my previous videos this week, and it was a reply to that video. Hey, I just finished, this. I'll show you what I did, and so I sent him my business email address, and he sent me all these pictures, and it was entirely in that thread of just wanting to be helpful and wanting to kind of share how they have found success with using speed paints. So I totally get that. but it's still internally. I've been painting for years, and this is a brand new thing. I mean, I've been painting since Warhammer 40K's 4th edition. They're about to release 10th edition now, so that gives you an idea. I've been painting for a long time, but I'm trying something brand spanking new. It's like I liken it to the first time I used a airbrush.
Okay,
but I did that in the privacy of my own home with Vernon Piper sitting right next to me telling me what to do. Now I'm doing something that is like, we'll see. I'm always up for the challenge, but we'll see.
All right.
What are you going to be doing today?
All right. So I'm actually just going to be painting old school, with, obviously I'm painting the Abomination because, why just have a paint and chill stream when we can have paint Thunderdome? But I'm too nervous I have the speed paints. I'm too nervous to try that just yet. So I'm going to go with a little more traditional, but we'll see how it comes out. Real quick, I do want to acknowledge everyone in the chat. We've got Glenn, we've got Chris, Silent Mouse, Steve Cross, Mundo actually showed up today. That's all on my side.
On my side, I've got John's Longbox. I did an interview with him on Wednesday. Well, not an interview. We just sat down and chat on his channel, so it's good to see him here. John Reed is here. The Whoop Sick, she's over on the other side, so welcome. Other side of the pond, that is. And then we have Dyson Mystics also on the other end of the pond. Alexander and Martina, they're over in Germany. So cool. Welcome.
All right. So this time Sam and I might not be as conversant as we normally are with our chats. I've jumped in on Sam's Saturday chats. I know that when I do interviews, I kind of focus on the guest a little bit more. So if we do that a little bit more than you're used to on Fridays, I do apologize, but we are going to be keeping an eye on chat as well. So,
I've got my side pulled up here. I'm actually watching from my stream, so it's actually a little bit behind. So I think there's about a 30-second delay or something like that.
On StreamYard, you should be able to see the chat, and actually, it looks like it's all combined too. So I still keep the studio window open.
Yeah, I had it on private chat. So I see all of it. Yes.
Ooh. Look, we're learning things.
I see everything.
All right.
Take it all.
Well, I'm going to flip over to my top-down camera, and now
I will also flip over to second.
Tiny little picture in the corner. Looks like Sam doesn't have a picture-in-picture, so I get to have my face on screen. No, I'm just
kidding. So do I.
Look at that. All right.
Yes.
So, first question for Sam.
Yeah.
Who are you? Introduce yourself to Gaming with ADHD.
All right. Well, my name is Sam.
Really?
Yeah. I run a channel called Flipside of Board Games, and this is a new venture for me. I am basically striking out on my own steam. So basically, I started in the board game industry way back as the co-host of the Dice Tower podcast, and that's going on almost, well, we're coming up on 20 years ago that was what I was doing in a couple of years. We're close.
Years.
About 18 years ago, we started doing that together. I went over to Korea in 2002. So that was 21 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a couple years after I was there, I started doing about 3 years after I was there. So in about 2005. About 2005, I believe, is when I started being the co-host of the Dice Tower podcast. The podcast started out with Tom and Joe Stedman as the original two hosts of the show. Joe moved away from Korea, so then I took over as the co-host of the Dice Tower podcast. So that's when I kind of started doing it. I was there for about 100 episodes, from about episode 50 to about 150. I did those episodes with Tom, and then I ended up moving away from Korea as well. There was about a year there where Tom and I were in different spots, and then through a comedy of not errors but definitely coincidences, we ended up both in Homestead, Florida, working for the same church and the same school. So after then, we started doing, we returned to doing top 10 lists, and we started the Miami Dice reviews, where Tom and I both kind of reviewed a game together. And then around, that was about 2010 when we started doing that again. And then around 2012, 2013, I went, no, that's not exactly right. Somewhere in there, I went full-time with the Dice Tower. I resigned my position as the teacher of the school, kept my youth pastor position at the church though, and just the daytime was with the Dice Tower.
Okay.
And then, from there, a couple of years ago, back in 2019, I had to step away from the Dice Tower. I had to move up here to Washington State to be with my kids. My ex left me back then in 2018 when it was clear that we weren't going to be able to get back together. I moved up here to be with my kids. My daughter and my youngest, Aiden, were with her, so I wanted to be where they were. And so moved up here to Washington State, and since then I've met an amazing woman, my wife Jessie, and she has 2 kids, and we've been married this will be our 2nd year this year, coming up in July.
Oh, soon.
Yeah. So very soon it'll be our 2nd year anniversary, and we're just having a great time. I worked for a couple of companies after the Dice Tower. I first worked for Mythic Games for a year. For 2 years. And then they had to let me go because of all of the financial struggles that they were going through, and unfortunately are still going through. Worked for Monster Fight Club for started in about August of last year, and did that until April, and resigned that position in April to begin Flipside of Board Games. So it is an interesting ride, but we'll see. Man, I'm so nervous to try this stupid speed paint. I hate that I feel this way. I'm like, what am I doing with this? Anyway, let me ask this question before I start. Should I use a smaller brush or a thicker brush? Here's the brush that came with the actual set of speed paints that I use, but it's got a really thick bristle on it. This is the one that I usually use for basing minis. Which one should I use? Please let me know.
Okay.
I know that speed paints are pretty much just a thick wash. I know that's a really weird description, but
so
what do you think?
From low experience, so I'm gonna want the chat to chime in, especially if they have used them much more extensively than I have. My guess from the stuff that I've watched is that you'd want to use like your normal brush. Like here's mine. This is normal. This is a what size is this?
This is a medium layer brush. This is a medium layer brush that I have right now. So
that looks a little small for how much, because my understanding with how you want to use speed paints is you want to get a decent amount of paint on there. Like whereas a wash, you want it kind of thin.
Okay.
This you want a little thicker.
All right. It's your fault then if I screw this up.
That's fair. I think I got the Kickstarter edition of Green Horde. If I have to, I'll send you a replacement Abomination. And you can send me that.
I'm not going to ask you to do that. All right. So I'm going to go with color scheme. I decided to go with a Hulk color scheme. We're definitely doing, of course, the green skin for the Ork, but his I don't know what this is his apron. I don't know what that is. His battle apron. I'm going to call it a battle apron. I'm going to do with purple. It's called High Dweller Purple. So, all right, here we go. And should I fill the brush? Fill the brush completely?
Well, no, you never want to fill it completely.
I'm not going to ask you any more questions about painting. There's a reason you call this the amateur hour. Oh my gosh!
Look, it's gaming with ADHD for a reason, Sam.
Yes, that's true. All right, yeah, you're right. Well, here we go.
You know why I keep saying that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Why do you keep saying that?
Because that's what you thought my channel was when I introduced myself.
Oh, that's true. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I've made that joke a couple of times in your chat, and
yes,
like I'm like, I don't think he gets this, but I have a tendency to latch on to horrible jokes and just drive them into the ground. So, anyhow, that's my funny thought process. So, all right. So you have obviously had a, I'm going to just say a rather adventurous, time. What is it that got you into gaming? Like, have you always been into it, or like just when you met Tom?
Well, that's when it probably took the turn of being something that's like, this is what we could do for a I don't want to say a job, but more like a hobby, and then the hobby turned into a job. But I think from an early age, I was always into gaming in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it was, when I was a little kid, it was, doing, chess and checkers with my grandparents or what have you. But after that, it was more of a situation where we would be playing like card games in the dorms at college. We would be doing, that kind of thing where we were playing. Let's see, what were we playing? Oh crap! Got his leg. Fart. Anyway, he'll have a greenish purple leg. But there were times where it was just us, kind of playing those card games. We played, goodness, what were some of the card games? We played the Decipher, CCG. We played
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars. Star Trek. No, I was not a Trekkie. I was a Star Wars fan. So
you can like both, Sam. It's okay.
I know, but I wasn't a Trekkie. I wasn't a fan of Star Wars. I mean, of Star Trek. I was a fan of Star Wars, and that's what really got me in. I really enjoyed whatchamacallit, Star Trek. Star Trek Next Generation is one of my favorite TV shows to watch. So okay. Wow. Well, so far I'm impressed. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but that is definitely a purple cloak. It's probably a little bit darker. Maybe I just have to wait for it to dry. But I already like the highlight effect that it's having on how that purple is really kind of settling into the recesses there. I like it. But that was a little bit, with that being, I didn't put as much dry brushing down there as I did on the top of the figure because, it's underneath all of that mass of stuff. So I imagine there would be more shadow down there than there would be highlights. So we'll see. All right. Well, Purple was not a complete disaster. So I am let's see. How are we doing here? Bigger is faster. Got to go fast. Not good at detail painting, but I admire people who do it. Used to be crazy about D&D minis, Chris says. Battle Apron. And that got a laugh. So that's cool. Battle Apron, it is from now on. Laughs and brush control. Yes. I do not have good brush control at all. So feel free.
That's actually a running joke in the painting stream chats.
Yeah.
Steve insists that I have amazing brush control.
Oh, okay.
And
well, I do not. I will be the first one to admit that as well. I've had people say that have watched my painting videos that are like, well, you definitely don't have a steady hand. And I'm like, thanks, I think. But yeah. All right. I definitely used too much purple. So we'll see how that goes. Because now I'm going to waste a whole bunch of purple.
Okay.
Unless I just throw it on something.
All right. So you said you were playing the Decipher Star Wars game back in college, which I will admit I played that one. It was really solid. I like how they put that together. But it definitely got really long in the tooth towards the end there. But what do you
mean by that?
Where just like too many cards, too many things were available.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It was just getting a little too unwieldy. Some of the later sets, I don't think they necessarily had thought out as well. So it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it, but that was I try to avoid collectible games these days. We'll just put it that way.
Oh, I totally do. And I'm not even going to be vague about that. I completely avoid them because I just they're okay. First, it's not an indictment. First of all, on that kind of game or the people who enjoy that kind of game. But I will say that my tastes are such that I will go very far down that rabbit hole if I don't stop myself early on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I avoid it at all costs for me, because it's like there's no way that I would be able to do both board games and some of those collectible games.
Oh yeah. Like for me, I had gotten into I've mentioned Battletech multiple times. I had gotten into MechWarrior because, well, that was the current iteration of Battletech, and I like part of the only thing that saved the budget at the time was the fact that I was a window washer while I was going through college. And I went around to the game stores and I'm like, hey, I'll wash your windows. Can you give me store credit? And they're like, okay. And so I'd get like a couple $100 worth of credit a month.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a fantastic trade at the time. And let's just say I sometimes wish that I still did it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's cool of the store to do that for you too. To find kind of new and inventive ways to kind of allow their customers to purchase stuff from them. So that's cool of them for doing that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was young, married, probably like at least a kid or two at that point. So
yeah,
it was definitely appreciated. So, all right. So after card games, and I'm assuming you graduated college. Actually, how did you end up in Korea?
Well, Tom went over there first. We were friends in college. I've known Tom since college, and so he and I were both in the same college, and we were actually there were many times where we were both what do you call them work program students, where we were working our way through college and not, daddy wasn't paying for everything for us.
Sure.
So we both spent a lot of time at the college, because the way that the contract worked at Pensacola Christian, where we both went, was that during the semesters, you basically worked part-time. Well, you spent a year working full-time for the college first. And then after that, you went to working in the summers. You continued to work full-time, but then in the during the semesters, you would be working for the college part-time and going to school full-time.
Okay.
So during the summers, it was a very kind of close-knit group of people, because you basically were on campus all year long, except for a 2 week vacation in the summer.
Right.
But the rest of the time you were on campus. And so you really got to know the work crew people and who they were. So Tom and I became really good friends that way because of that.
Okay.
So that's how we met. And I forgot what the original question was.
How you ended up in Korea.
How we ended up Korea. So he and I met in college, and he went over to Korea first after he graduated. And then he graduated in the spring of 2002. Spring of 2001. I graduated in the fall of 2002. So after he'd been over there a year, we still kept in touch, and he would say stuff like, we really need teachers over here, and it's getting to that point where it's just really difficult to teach, and so they were low on teachers, and so my wife at the time and I just thought about it and said, well, that's something we could do and something we maybe should do. So we went over there and taught English as a second language to Korean nationals I was the teacher. My wife was taking care of the kids. My ex at the time. My ex now, but she was wife back then.
Right.
And so I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but who knows?
Are you painting it?
Yeah, I'm painting it. Yes.
Then you're doing it right.
I'm doing it right. Okay, fine. But we'll see. All right, but I'm just not doing it very fast. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But it's looking pretty good. I'll say that much.
Well, and real quick, I forgot to mention this before we started. I normally go for about 2 hours, but if you've got to bounce, if you're done, you're like, haha, I painted, and you're like halfway done, I'm out of here, dude. You are more than welcome to do that, whenever needed. So
yeah. Well, no, I don't. I've got another stream scheduled today, but that doesn't start until 12:30. I've got another review going up at 9. Actually, right now. Just realized that. So yeah, it'll be all right. I think I'll stick around for the duration till you say you're done. That's what we'll do.
Fair enough.
Here's how he's coming out so far. So he's looking pretty good.
There we go.
Yeah,
I do like that. That's a nice that is a nice Hulk green on there.
Yep. Hulk green with that little purple sash. Battle apron is what we're calling it officially.
Yes. Battle apron. It's a technical term.
Yes, absolutely.
You, for the record, Sam, you have been an absolute treat to talk to since we met. Just saying.
I appreciate it. So. Yeah, I mean, part of my thing here is that it's less about, because sometimes you almost get it, you get in the rut of being kind of, well, you will say to yourself, I should be treated a certain way, or I should be this, or I should be that, and I should get this, and I should get that. The term entitlement is thrown around, but I don't really like that to throw it around a lot unless that's what it actually is.
Sure.
And I don't subscribe to that, because at the end of the day, I go into any conversation that I have with the absolute fact that I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else does. Now, I do know from watching some YouTube videos that some people are able to put both of their legs into a pair of pants at the same time. I'm not. So
I am not that coordinated.
No, I am nowhere. I think I might break something if I tried to do that. Including things around, not just my body. I'm talking like,
the dresser, your
the
bed.
dresser, the table, whatever. So, I mean, because I can't jump that high, so I'm going to have to jump down off of something into the pants if that's going to happen. So, yeah, I was never a basketball kid, that's for sure. I could not jump. So
it's hard to paint when I'm laughing.
I know, right? This dude has some huge fingers, dude.
I know.
I mean, even the undersides where it's not his nail anymore. I mean, this dude's got some big hands.
Yeah, I just thought the Abomination would be a little better than the fatty we got right here.
Yeah.
Just like make it a little easier for people to see while we're painting. So
yeah, that's probably true.
All right, so let's get to know Sam a little bit more. Okay. All right, so you're in Korea and you guys decide to start a podcast.
Well, that was Tom and Joe. I wasn't really part of that decision. They wanted to do it on their own. I didn't really feel like I had the ability to carry a podcast. Tom, if you know Joe, you know that he'll take on any challenge, and Joe is a real kind of hold my beer kind of personality. So he will absolutely, he was very confident in his own ability, and the whole thing originally was that Joe would be able to talk intelligently and could about war games, and Tom was more of the Eurogamer board gamey type conversationalist at that point. That was the original formula, I guess you could call it.
Sure.
So I wasn't anywhere near as confident in my ability to hold those kinds of conversations back then. So that was just something they did as themselves. Now, the more I played with them, the more I hung around with them and all that kind of stuff, the more it became evident that it was just kind of a, it was a hobby thing for them. It wasn't really, they weren't really trying to talk from a position of, authority or anything like that. It was just, they wanted to have some fun and they wanted to interact with people,
Okay.
So that was cool that way. And they, we still were gaming together. I was still part of their gaming group and all that kind of stuff, but it was a little bit like, I don't know, almost kind of a, it was their thing. And I was just the buddy that that didn't do that. Now, there were a couple of times where I came on and I was there with them, but it was never a thing where I would be taking over until it became apparent that, and until Joe made the decision that he was moving away, that we started to think like it was, something that I would do on a longer term basis. And even then, at that point, we went to Origins one year. I remember early on, Tom and I went to Origins one year when it was just doing the podcast before he had actually started, doing anything real with the Dice Tower, except for the podcast. And people asked and said, how do you get into board gaming, doing a board game podcast? Or how did you get into podcasting or something like that? We were part of a panel and Tom had me there and I really felt like I was out of my element, fish out of water. And but they were doing a panel and somebody asked that question. And I basically just said, know somebody that already does the podcast and do it with them. So, but that's literally what I did. I wasn't trying to be cheeky or anything like that. It was literally what I was what I was doing. So, I just didn't have much else, much other input beyond that. And I just thought it was, that was the most truthful answer I could have given. So we'll see. I don't know. So I think he's looking pretty good so far. He's not bad at all, actually.
I really do like that green. The purple's kind of hard for me to see.
Yeah, it is. It's hard for me to see, and I'm right here 2 inches away from it. So I'm probably going to have to go back and highlight it a little bit more, just so that it brightens up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, your camera just seems a little dark to me as well.
That is, and it's my camera. It's not my lighting because I've got plenty of light going into this room right now. But
sure.
Now we're doing the bone.
All right. So what was it like then? When you decided it's like, oh, okay, I can, I think okay, let me rephrase that. What made you decide that you had enough that you could contribute and want to actually start doing it?
Honestly, it wasn't really that. It was more, yeah, I can help Tom out because he needed a host. He needed a co-host. And he needed someone to step in and take Joe's piece of the pie, so to speak. So it wasn't really that I thought I had the right amount of know-how finally. It was more just, hey, my buddy needs somebody to help him out on this podcast. So sure, I'll sit down for a couple hours and a couple hours a week and talk with them about board games. That's literally what it was. It wasn't anything other than that.
Okay.
So yeah. And that's one of the cool things that I like about doing this kind of stuff is that you really do not have, see, it's starting to dummy.
What?
I made a boo-boo. It's starting to pull some of that green that wasn't dry yet. And I pulled it up into the bone area. So I'm going to have to
okay.
Be careful.
Well, yeah. Sometimes it can actually work out. Like
where it settles back down?
Not necessarily where it settles back down, but sometimes the quote unquote blending isn't a bad idea. I did forget that I had done this. This is all speed paint. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, but I intentionally got the colors next to each other when they were wet.
Kept it wet, yeah.
Yeah. Well, sort of. I think these were more wet than up here. But then they pulled each other and sort of blended. So you may still be able to get a good look out of it. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not trashing it or anything like that. I'm just, I noticed that the part that I really wanted it to be bone was looking like it was green bone.
It's moldy.
Yeah. Oh, it's moldy bone. Yeah. There you go.
Let's see. Chris says a passion for playing board games is a perfect reason to join a board gaming podcast. Yep. Would you say you were passionate about board games at that point?
I'm hesitant to use the word passion because passion is a really heavy word to me.
Okay.
It denotes, I think, a lot more sometimes than people intend it to. I think sometimes that people will use the word passion when they just mean I really like it. And to me, that's not what passion is. Passion is more than I just really, really like it. It carries with it almost a determination that, like, for example, at that point, I think Tom had the passion to do a board gaming podcast. And I was just the buddy that was willing to support him in it. If that makes any sense at all.
No, that absolutely makes sense. It's you left to your own devices, you would not have started a board game podcast.
Absolutely not.
Right. But you have no problems joining a board game podcast now that there's already one running.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I totally understand that.
I'm totally off camera. What the heck?
Dude, I do it all the time. Trust me. The chat will forgive you. Let's see. I mean, like, if I was a professional, I'd like have questions written down and,
yeah,
be more prepared. Instead, it's ADHD, and so we wing it.
Well, nobody's accusing us of being professionals. So,
okay, I'll be honest. I have only lightly.
I'd rather you lied to me. I'm just saying. You were saying you're going to be honest. Go ahead.
I've never jumped in that much to podcasts. Like, I have like one podcast that I will listen to on a regular basis. And like, even back then, I did not jump on the podcast bandwagon very much. So how is it different, say, doing YouTube for board games versus doing a board game podcast?
Well, for me, I think doing YouTube is easier than doing a podcast, and the reason I say that is because I'm not that great with audio, not that great at all with audio, actually, and so all you're doing on a podcast is audio, and so I would be a lot. I would be a lot more. What do you call like lost if I was doing just a podcast, because there's more that I would have to figure out. Whereas with doing video, it's what I did with the Dice Tower for so many years. So I kind of, quote unquote, know what I'm doing, so to speak, even though there are still many things that I need to learn how to do. There's less that I need to learn how to do with doing video than there is with doing the audio. And I know that audio comes into the picture with video because people have to be able to hear you, right?
Right.
But there's, I don't know, in my mind, there's just less going on.
Interesting.
With video than there is with than there is with just the audio. So that's kind of the reason why I feel more comfortable. I guess that's a good way to put it. Going into the video than I do the podcast region. So I probably wouldn't do the podcasting just because, well, I did do podcasting actually for a little bit. It was called the Dice Steeple, and I did have that kind of as part of my repertoire, so to speak, for
Real
a
quick,
while.
Real quick, you said the Dice Steeple, as in like the steeple on a church?
Yes, because it was something that Tom started and then didn't or couldn't keep up with, and so I kind of took it over after a while. The guy that, well, I misspoke. It's not that he couldn't do it or he didn't want to keep up with it. The guy that he was doing it with it didn't want to do it anymore. So he had somebody kind of step away from it on him, and he didn't really have much to do. There wasn't much he could do on his own. So I helped him with that for a little bit. And then there was a time where he wasn't able to continue with it either, and I took it over.
Okay, so what was that podcast about? I mean, I have a general idea, but I
yeah, it was basically we did it was a podcast on the hobby from a Christian perspective. So we would talk about things from we would talk about, what are some themes that are maybe less likely to hit the table, that kind of stuff. How are we supposed to act in the community as Christians? How are we to conduct ourselves? And, that kind of stuff. We would talk about that kind of stuff, try to be an encouragement. After I took it over myself and, oh my gosh, Dan, I can't remember his last name now. The Game Boy geek, Dan. Oh, I'm going to shoot myself later. No, I'm not, but
metaphorically in Minecraft.
Yes, metaphorically. Dan. Anyway, myself and Dan, the Game Boy geek, we took it over for a little bit, and we took the road a little bit more of being more outreaching. We wanted to get other people who were not Christians onto the show so that we could ask them their opinions on these things and how what's their thought processes is when we talk about these things. For example, we had members of the LGBTQ community come on, and we talked about inclusion from the Christian perspective and from their perspective. We talked about Christian theming in board games. We had one episode where we had a couple of board game designers and a couple of publishers on the episode. It was while we were at Origins one year, and we had Mike Fitzgerald on, and it was myself. We had a representative from Yellow, and we talked about Christian themes in board games, but we wanted to have that kind of round table discussion. We wanted to bridge the gap between Christianity and the world, because it seems to me that there's a tendency to have less dialogue nowadays, because for one of two reasons. Either we say that, or we think that the other side is going to get offended by what we say, or we don't want to take the time because they're not going to listen anyway. There's that kind of duality on why we don't want to talk. And I'm frankly kind of sick of that. I want to talk to people. I want to be able to even if I don't agree with them, even if they don't agree with me, I still want to be able to talk. I still want to be able to communicate. I still want to be able to sit around a table and have a discussion, or just play a game.
Throw some dice.
Yeah, exactly.
Draw a tile.
So I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the whole ideology that you don't agree with me, so I can't do things with you. That's so not true, because the human society would not have made it this far if only people who agreed with each other stuck together.
Right.
It just wouldn't happen. That's not how things work. But I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but the whole idea for me is community, and trying to get to that point where I can sit down and talk to people. I can sit down and play games with people. I can sit down and enjoy time with people that don't agree with me, and that I don't agree with them on certain topics. Now, it is true, birds of a feather flock together. So I get that there's a certain level of comfort that comes with being around people who have the same ideologies and the same viewpoints as you do. I get that totally. But that's a really insular, is that the right word? It's a really insular way to look at life. And,
sure.
And that's not what I'm about.
So. No, and honestly, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times. I mean, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yeah. I have lots of friends that I disagree with. I have friends in the church that I disagree with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, they're still friends. They're not going anywhere, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah.
And like, to not be able to sit down, and just be friends with somebody, like, and be able to set some things aside, it is just sad.
Yep. Right.
To put it simply.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
And I'm not. I will full on admit that I absolutely struggle with being a little bit too judgmental at times. And
we all do, though. That's part of the human psyche, man.
Sure. And it's like I was literally sitting in church on Sunday, and a friend of mine had texted me and was just talking about being frustrated with something. And I'm like, I get it. I can be totally judgmental, as I'm sitting there recounting, oh yeah, that person walked in and I started thinking something mean, and things like that. I'm like, I need to be better at that. So like on my channel, I've tried to just keep it where, no, we're just talking about the games. Occasionally other things will come up, and I don't necessarily ignore them, but I try to, like, if it's not about the games, I try to minimize it, to its relevant point. Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know where I was going at that point, so I'm a little
well, you were making the point that there were people even in your church that you don't agree with, but it doesn't mean that you don't not spend time with them.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was
them, but it's like it isn't like you can't do things with them and disagree at the same time.
Yeah.
Did I say that word? I think I did.
No. I think we all got what you meant. But yeah, like, well, and I was actually just talking, like, I have friends that, so like the way that our church works, like, you don't get to quote unquote pick where you go. It's all geographical. So if you live in this square mile, then you go here at this time for church.
Oh,
And so I was actually meaning like literal friends, like other states, and we happen to have the same faith.
yeah.
But oh my gosh, do we disagree on a lot of things?
Yeah.
But they are still friends, and it's just like, okay, is it like I just won't have that discussion with them because I know it's going to damage the friendship. Is it important? Probably. Is it that important? Definitely not. So,
Right.
so yeah, but that's it. I do anyway, bringing it all the way back around, to, the dice steeple. I like that idea. I wish I had known about it. I'm assuming the files are probably still out there.
Yeah, they're still up there. Libsyn, I think, is what we used to use, and you can still go up there. I don't know if they still have those. I don't know if they're all still available. I'm making an executive decision, and I am putting this purple on his cowl as well, and it looks like crap.
Real quick, Ron Frazier from your chat says, we've lost the fine arts of discourse and fellowship with your fellow human. Tribalism dominates the online world, and it's unfortunate.
That is correct.
I would agree completely. So, anyhow, so now that we've gotten, a little bit on the depressing side of the chat.
No, not depressing.
I said a little bit. we got a little serious. That's probably good from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what made you decide to make the Dice Tower a full-time job?
Well, honestly, I was getting burnt out at school. I was doing I have to go get, I'll still keep talking, but I was getting burnout at work because I was going to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was the soccer coach, and so practice wouldn't get done until 6. And if we had a game, I wouldn't get back in town until about, if it was an away game, I wouldn't get back until about 10 o'clock at night. So 7 to 10 hour days, that'll wear upon you. But so I was just basically getting burnt out, and that was on top of all of the paperwork that comes with teaching. It wasn't just the hours. It was grading papers, keeping a grade book, meetings, all the stuff, all the fringe stuff that comes along with being a teacher that you don't really think about if you're not a teacher. Those things were just all kind of combining, and I was getting burnt out, and I just couldn't do it anymore, frankly. So I had to step away from it. And this was
this was in Florida. So you'd already left Korea at that point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. And just real quick. Yes, it was Dan King. That's correct. That I was doing the Dice Tower, and we did that for a while. And Dan had to step away from it, and I wanted to step away from it too. That was about the time when we were both going through our own. I didn't know this at the time, but he was going through a separation, and then I was going through my separation soon after that, and we just kind of came away from it. And then after that, we came back, and I did the Dice Steeple with Koss Ishmael, a good buddy of mine that lives in, I think he still lives in Tennessee. But anyway, crap. What were we talking about? Why you went full time with the Dice Tower?
Oh yeah. It was just a time where we were like, I was super getting burnt out at school, and it just was not conducive for me to. I wasn't a good teacher.
I was focusing more on the soccer aspect than I was, because I enjoyed being the soccer coach. I was focusing too much on that and less on my room. And so,
what did you teach?
I taught. I taught Bible to high school.
Okay.
And then I taught U.S. history and or world history, depending on the year and depending on the class. You know, what needed to be done.
Okay.
So it was Bible was my main subject, and U.S. history was and world history were my secondaries. And there was a couple times where I had to do a health class, but I felt really stupid doing that because I was super overweight. So I was like, yeah, that looks really good. I mean, I'm still overweight, but I mean, I've lost a lot since then. But
you look great, Sam.
No, I appreciated that. But I mean, it was just, you know, you don't want the biggest teacher at the school to teach the health class. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, but I only did that for one semester because it needed to be done because our PE teacher left, and that's who was doing it. But, you know,
sure.
So I was just getting burnt out, and that's why I talked to Tom to see if it was a possibility for me to come on with the Dice Tower, and he said he didn't think he could afford me because he couldn't pay. And again, that sounds weird. It sounds different than I meant it. So he didn't think that he could. He didn't think that he could meet the same salary that I was making at the school, and so that's why I kept working as the youth pastor at the church, because I still really enjoyed doing that. It was just the school work that was getting me burnt out. But so we were able to work out a situation to where my income didn't really change hardly at all, because I was able to keep part of my income from the church, and then Tom didn't have to. Tom wouldn't have to pay me as much as I was getting paid by the school, so that I could keep that salary about the same, and not be as big of a draw on the Dice Tower as I could have been. So we were able to work that out, and so I think it was a good thing going forward. But
looking at where you're at now, I mean, I think it worked out for you.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm super happy with how everything worked out in that. Right. I still think very fondly on my days with the Dice Tower, because, you know, I just look back and we were all just buds, you know, working in the same room, you know, cracking jokes, having a good time. And, you know, they've grown a lot since then, and they're still doing a super good job. But I don't think that could ever be replicated, and I wouldn't seek to replicate it. But it's one of those things where I always look back on it with fondness, because it was a fun time of life, going to conventions with them, and being able, you know, it was all part of the job. You know, that was the thing that really made it cool, was that not necessarily we are, you know, playing, because that's another misnomer about working at the Dice Tower. You are not just playing games all the time. There is, I mean, you definitely have to get the games played. Don't get me wrong, but you know, there's all of the editing and all of the recording and the planning, the booth work when you're at conventions. That all goes into it as well. So it's not all fun and games, as they say, but it was very fun.
So, we'll assume for back in the day, did you have to do all of your own editing as well?
Yeah, still do.
Oh,
yeah. Tom didn't, but he bore the brunt of, I mean, he and I think still does, makes the lion's share of the videos. I mean, Z and I were tasked with doing 5 videos a week, and we had the opportunity to make those videos whatever. They didn't have to be 5 reviews. I'll put it that way, but we were tasked with 5 videos a week, and that's what we had to do. So like we had videos come out that were like, you know, we did our variety shows. He did Board Game Blender. I did at the beginning Throat Punch Lunch, and then Token Punch Lunch. And then sometimes we would do live Q&As or something to that effect. You know, so we had the ability to kind of do whatever we wanted to do as far as that, but we were tasked with doing 5 videos a week, and so that's what we did. And yeah, we had to do all of our own editing. Tom didn't, because he had such a many videos
and contacts.
He would easily. Yes, exactly. He was definitely the boss. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that was his role, and our role was different than that.
Sure.
So that's what we were tasked with. Tom had Derek Porter for a while doing his editing so that he could do more videos. And then that's what Roy does now. Roy is pretty much Tom's editor, so that Tom can continue churning out all of the videos that he can churn out, because he's just a freaking machine, for crying out loud.
So how did you learn the editing? Did you just go in and figure it out? Did you
John Wayne method?
Wayne method?
Absolute John Wayne method. Jump in, sink or swim. That's pretty much how we did it. Tom did give me some pointers. He did give me some, we were using, oh man, what were we using back then? We were using,
like Apple Movie or something.
Yeah. Something like that. It was something that came, on the actual Macs that we were using. It was not software that we bought. iMovie, I want to say.
Probably. Whatever it
was called. Yeah, but that's what we were using, and then we would just do the best that we could, figure it out. And Tom did give me some pointers, because he'd been already doing it for a while. And so had Z for a little bit as well. So they were both very, very gracious in that respect. But it wasn't that difficult to kind of. There was a learning curve, but the learning curve wasn't that bad.
Sure. Well, I'll admit, for me, I don't know if you've watched any of my videos yet, but like one take upload.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could do that. Usually it's like, well, I said that's stupid. And people have said it, and it's very true, and it's a criticism, but I can't get mad about it. They say I'm someone who will take. I can't see. You're experiencing what they say right now. They'll say stuff like, I will say the least amount of information and take the longest time to say it, or something like that.
Well, okay. Let me clarify a little bit. When I say one take and upload, that means once I get past like the first 30 seconds. Okay.
Gotcha.
It's like,
yes.
Like, you start talking and it's like, good morning and welcome to okay, I'm going to start over.
Mouth stopped working. Yep, yeah, exactly.
But once I get going, I don't nope, sorry, I'm leaving the mistakes in. I'm leaving, just nope, deal with it. I'm not editing this because I don't want to listen to my voice.
Yep.
But that's just me. But no, that's actually kind of cool because I mean, number one, you developed a skill, not just with presenting, but being able to go in and edit it and
yeah.
Dang it, Steven. You keep doing that to me. Steven Cross from my chat. Just Dave. Rename it Dave. Good morning and welcome to Dave.
Yeah, but you have to say it in the. Oh, I don't know. Is that a Space Odyssey reference?
No, it was from what so Steven's been coming into my chat for a while now. I don't know why anyone comes into my chat. I don't think I'm that entertaining. But we've got this little group that keeps showing up, and I was painting a lot of Battletech figures, and Steven plays one game, Battletech. So they were launching the Kickstarter, and I'm like, you know what? I'll cover the launch. Let's watch what happens during the launch of the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned to Steve, I'm like, hey, would you like to come on stream with me? And we'll just talk and see what's happening. And so it was something in that first stream when they launched the Battletech Kickstarter just recently. Mm-hmm. And it was just something where like I was getting all tongue-tied and he's just like, nope, it's Dave. We're gonna call it Dave now. And so if we just need a generic name, whether it's for a car or a person or a burrito, we just call it Dave.
That's a good way to go about it. I like it.
Yeah. Doing these live streams has been interesting, but a lot of fun.
That's kind of the point, right? I mean, if it's not fun, you don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I like it's interesting because like I'm sort of in a slump. Like I have videos that I could record that I need to record, but it's just like, I'm just gonna do my paint streams and upload my shorts. Because like I'll just do like a little 15-second turnaround of a miniature that I painted, and so that's the shorts that I upload. Yeah. But anyhow, so I've had so much fun with the chat and with doing these live streams that even on burnout, and actually I'm not burnt out. It's just like, it's kind of that ADHD, lack of a dopamine hit kind of a thing. But I still have so much fun with the chat that it's like, I don't care if I didn't do the other videos. I'm doing these because they're fun. I like interacting with everyone and right. being able to talk. So,
right. Well, anyhow. I've been noticing on my channel that, like, for example, the review that I put up yesterday. Now, again, it's an older game. It was I did a review on My City yesterday, and I put it up, and it got like I don't know. It's probably somewhere around 200 views now. But the little 20-minute video that you and I put up, where we're just testing to make sure this works for today, has the same number of views. And we literally put like 30 minutes into that. I put a couple hours into the other one because you got to view it. You got to set it all up. You got to shoot it. You got to edit it, and you got to render it, and then you got to upload it. That all took about 2 hours, and it's like it's getting the same number of views. So I'm not going to go down that route of just doing live streams and all that other kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, but there's a definite time investment that gets into some of this stuff that just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do more than we would. I don't even know if there's teeth up here at the top of his mouth, but I'm putting some white up here because I think there is. But I can't see. My eyes don't focus that well, folks. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Cool Mini has a very interesting art style, we'll say.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, Zombicide does. And
yeah.
Once you get, I mean, I'm looking at this thing here, and he definitely has some little tiny teeth up there, but the top of his head is like only a third of his actual head.
Right.
Than the rest. I mean,
he's
got teeth that are bigger than his skull, apparently.
I get that you're a zombie, but that just doesn't math. Anyhow, so all right, what else can we ask Sam? Chad, do you have any questions for Sam? I mean, I'm going to keep asking questions, but all right. So, and also, I am going to preface this. First off, I am not going to ask the question that you always get asked and that you are never going to answer. So, I'm not.
Good.
I'm not. But I am phrasing it this way. Just again, I didn't say it earlier. First off, if I ask a question and you're like, I would rather not answer that, that's fine. I don't care. You're welcome to say I don't want to answer that.
Sure.
But I am curious. I know you moved up to Washington to continue to be near the kids, and whatnot. But why did you leave the Dice Tower? I mean, I'm assuming it would have been something you could have done remotely.
Well, at the time, we did. Well, I can't remember if we entertained that or not. Well, here's the thing. Back then, Tom, except for Eric, and except for another guy that was taking care of the website, he didn't have anybody working for him that was remote.
Okay.
And I think that was a foreign concept back then when I left.
Pre-2020.
Sure. Yeah. It was pre-2020. I mean, just pre-2020. I mean, literally 2 months later after I moved up here, the proverbial poop hit the fan.
Right.
So, but back then it was kind of because we did, our big ticket items were the top 10s, the Miami Dices, those were our big view hogs, so to speak. And you just don't have the same, or at least the thought process was, you just don't have the same dynamic that you would have doing something like that remotely.
That's fair.
And even post COVID, I think that still is true. When you're sitting together in the same room, your interaction is much more pithy, if I can use that word, than if you're having that slight delay, even if it's just slight, by doing something on a Zoom call or like we're doing here with StreamYard or what have you. So I think that still holds true. The dynamic is just kind of thrown off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, we kind of made the decision that we were just going to, part ways, make it amicable. And it absolutely was amicable. There were no hard feelings whatsoever. It wasn't like, at least I don't think Tom was going, whew, good, he's gone.
Finally got rid of that guy.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on, gee whiz. I don't think it wasn't like that at all. So it was just something that had to have been done, and we just didn't entertain that possibility of doing it remotely because at that point, it really wasn't a thing, if that makes sense.
Okay. So then, all right. I was just curious.
I gotta go get more paint. Keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay. Then so then you're up in Washington. You've left the Dice Tower. like, when you left the Dice Tower, did you have a job in place, or or did you get up there and then start digging for something?
No, I had Tom was gracious enough to allow me to start looking for a job. I left in December. I think like December 19th was my last day. And no, not the 19th. It took me, no, it might've been 19th. But he allowed me, we made the decision back before, it was probably in October, that I was going to have to move. And so we made the decision back then that December was going to be my last month. And so he allowed me to use those few months that were my last I was still doing my stuff for the Dice Tower, but, I went to, oh goodness. There were a couple conventions that I was actually going to. Essen was even one of them, and he allowed me to use that Essen trip as, I still had my booth time that I had to keep on, but he allowed me to make schedule meetings with publishers and make contacts and stuff like that at Essen, and use it as a networking time, not just a Dice Tower time. So he was very gracious in that respect, and allowed me to put a lot of feelers out. And I made contact with Mythic Games, and Mythic Games was one of there was about 3 or 4 companies I was talking to, but Mythic Games is really the one that I really wanted to go work for, because they had their games were the ones that I really, really enjoyed the most. And that's the kind of situation that I wanted to go into. I wanted to go work for a publisher that I could just sink my teeth into everything that they did. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what Mythic was at that point. And so I started working for them in January 2020, pretty much right off the bat. There was about a 2-week time there during Christmas and New Year's where I was able to kind of get settled up here in my rental home. And then the first of the year, I took a trip to Paris as kind of a what do you call that? Introductory
interview, trial.
Well, it wasn't an interview at that point, because we had already signed papers at that point. I was going to be their employee. I'd already signed my contract and all that kind of stuff. But what is it called? It's not like on the job training. It's
orientation.
Yes. Yeah. Orientation. Yes. So it was kind of an orientation week for me to just spend time with them, spend time with the company. They had some of their English employees, or people that lived in England. They weren't English, they were Greek, but some of their employees came over at the same time, and we all were able to kind of meet together and spend time and talk about the future of the company and that kind of stuff. So that was a cool thing for us as well, just to have that time of getting to, I was able to, talk to the other people that worked in the offices there and that kind of thing. And oh man, this brush is so big compared to this stupid mouth.
So I'll switch to a small brush for things like that.
Yep. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I've actually found that like I just have like my standard brush, and I use that for almost everything. So like basically when I have if I decide to try and do something with the eyes, or there's just that one tiny little piece that I want to hit and just make sure I don't slop, that's when I'll go to a different sized brush. But that's just me.
Yeah. All right, Chris has a question for me. What is your favorite game to replay on Halloween, Thanksgiving, on Christmas? Ooh. Wow. Well, more often than not, I don't usually play a lot of games on holidays, which is strange. You would think that, but we're usually going out and doing something, or we're spending, time doing something not necessarily outside, but just kind of out of the game room, so to speak. But games that I have played on Halloween have been games like Horrified. I've played that on Halloween before. It has a really cool kind of spooky theme to it.
That one, Horrified, I really do like that one. Something about what Funko's been doing lately. Mm-hmm. They've been hitting on all cylinders, it seems like.
Yes, that is absolutely true. I at Gen Con last year, I think I brought back 3 Funko games. I brought back The Goonies Never Say Die. I brought back what is it? The American Monsters, Horrified. I brought that back, and then I also brought back man, where is it? I've rearranged all my games and I can't remember. Oh yeah, here it is. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. That's another one that they just came out with, which is a really cool one versus all game. Really, really fun. Really enjoyed that one. And then I also brought back, I didn't bring back, but I bought the Back to the Future one. They're all over the place, but
sure,
you think I'd have them all together, but nope, that's not how I organize things. But yeah, no, those Funko games that are like based off of old movies are like, that's my jam. They're not super like componently, nice games, but they're super thematic. They're like, you are playing through this game,
dude,
through the movie.
Pan Am.
Really?
Have you not tried that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Have you not played Twilight Imperium? Oh my gosh. I can't play everything, brother.
Chris is probably annoyed because I totally hijacked the question. No, it's fine. I'm teasing. But I'm mostly just surprised that you haven't played it. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you're building airline routes. Okay, sure. But there's just something about it that the theme just clicks. Cool. And I'm like, this can't be that good. But like, we got it. It was like buy 2 get 1 free at Target or something, or like buy like I said last night, sales, clearance tables, whatever.
Yeah.
So I got it. And then when we played it, I'm just like, I really like this. And I shouldn't.
That's usually how it works out, though. It's like you have those things. Now I can't remember which. I think this one was the bone. Once you put it in the little pot, see, I have this little thing here because I can get these at Hobby Lobby for like 10 for $1.
I get these from Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, well, those are fancy schmancy, man. I just get the 99-cent clear plastic. Throw them away when you're done.
Well, I throw these away, but
wasteful.
What do you mean wasteful? You can see how much paint has gone through this.
I know. Actually, what I'll do sometimes, though, I'm actually not joking. What I do sometimes is I will actually, I don't know how, but his bone, I'm painting these things here as bone. I don't know how they came through the metal, but that's what happened.
Sure.
And that's how the metal is staying on his arm, is because of the bone.
It's your miniature. Makes sense.
There you have it. That's right. It's mine.
Unless you decide you hate it and send it to me for a replacement.
No, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. The bone just came through.
All right. So you mentioned your Halloween game. What's your Thanksgiving game and your Christmas game?
I was just going to say that I don't think I've ever played a game on Thanksgiving.
Really?
We usually would go over to Tom's house when I lived in Florida, and we would play. Excuse me. We played. They were games that you could get on Steam. I can't remember the name of them, but it would come up with like a topic, and everybody would have to, on their phones, could type in their answer to that topic, and then it would grade you. And then you'd be able to vote on everybody else's and who you think was the best and that kind of stuff. And it was all
Jackbox.
Yes, Jackbox. That's correct.
And I never played it.
No, yeah, it was really fun. And that's what we would actually do. We would sit and we would talk and eat and just have fun in each other's company. And then we would play Jackbox. And then after that, we would kind of hang around for a little bit and everybody would go back to their own homes at that point. But that's pretty much what we done on Thanksgiving. So Jackbox, I guess, would be my Thanksgiving game. Christmas was usually not a gaming holiday. My tradition for Christmas is, of course, get up at the crack of early to open presents. And then we would watch A Christmas Story on repeat all day long. just in the background. And, we would walk in at our favorite moment of the movie and watch that part of the movie. And then we'd keep doing whatever we were doing. But Christmas has never really been a gaming holiday for me. It's always been kind of a hang out with and do whatever the family wants to do kind of day.
Well, and also, I mean, I think in your case, because you're playing games, quote unquote, 5 days a week or more.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, not really. Not really 5 days a week. I mean, I get what you're saying, and there is some validity to that statement because our lives were about gaming. We're not necessarily playing the games, but we're talking about games. We're giving the news about games. We're talking about new Kickstarters that are coming up. I mean, every single day you're engrossed in the board game industry or hobby. So I get what you're saying, and that's absolutely true. When it's your job, so to speak, unfortunately, it becomes less of your hobby, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So,
and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a different thing, right? When I was working for the Dice Tower, that was one of the weights that was on my shoulders, is that I was feeling less like it was a hobby and more like it was a job. Now I'm back to the point where, oh, no. This is something that I get to do as a job, but it is my hobby. And part of that has a lot to do with the other areas of my life right now are just firing on all of their cylinders. And those things are going so well. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it, but the other areas of my life are firing off so well that I am not weighed down. Don't get me wrong, dude. I got so much to do. It's not even funny. I got so much to do, but it's not a weight anymore. It's like, dude, I got so much that I get to do, and it's this cool stuff that I get to do, and it's my job. Even though I ain't getting a paycheck right now. I mean, there are some things that have brought some money in, and one of those things is something that I've got to do. It's a preview for an expansion of a game that I really liked when I was with the Dice Tower, called Gloria, a Game of Knights, put out by Strategos Games. They've hired me to do a Kickstarter preview of their new Knight Errant expansion that they're going to be going to Kickstarter with. They've also got some other stuff. I'm going to save most of that for their campaign, but that's something I got to get done. But that's something that has brought in some money. But it's not the regular paycheck that the publishers are bringing in. So
Sure.
I'm definitely not at the part where I can say, hey, this is my full-time job. It really does feel right now that I'm putting probably 60 hours a week in right now, and getting zero money back for it. Except for the two contracts that I've signed with for preview content. But the preview, one of those is a little bit further out. Knight Errant is going to be a little bit sooner, but it's definitely not where I want it to be, but we're headed in the right direction. I've only got about 400 more hours that I need before I can monetize on YouTube.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that I'll be able to apply for that next week, and then we'll get forward. But I'm in the spot right now psychologically where it's like, yeah, let's get this done. Let's do this. And because of everything else that was going on in my life back when I left the Dice Tower, I was like, I just want a paycheck that I can kind of put my head down, do what I know needs to get done, and I don't have to think about something new all of the time. I can just focus on 4 or 5 different products that a publisher has and know those like the back of my hand instead of having to learn something new all the time. But now I'm in that part where I'm like, let's go. Let's go.
So you went through a couple of different publishers. What made you decide you wanted to strike out on your own?
Honestly, it was well, let me see. I was at the point where I wanted to work in the industry, and I wanted to. I still love working in the industry. Working as, doing what we do in the industry is something cool. I think that I said it earlier. It's all about community. I wanted to stay working in the community. But I was at the point where it was less about, let me see, how can I put this? Because I don't want it to sound negative, because it wasn't negative. I liked my job in those places, but I just wasn't getting the same, I don't know, satisfaction isn't the right word, but that's the only one that's coming to mind out of it. So I knew I wanted to stay working with communities, which is what I was doing. But I wanted to do what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to do what somebody else thought was important. And I didn't want to have to do something, or I didn't want to do something and then have somebody come back and say, well, that's not what I was looking for, or that's not what it should have been, or anything like that. I wanted to just do it and say, okay, if people don't like this, I'll change it up. But this is what I think is good right now. And so, boom, there it is. What do you guys think? And if they say it's bad, then they say it's bad. My audio for the first few videos was off, so I had to dial that in a little bit. And it's not that I don't want criticism. Criticism is needful in life. You have to take criticism. You have to be able to take criticism. If you can't take criticism, you're going to just simply sink. Mm-hmm. If you can't take criticism. So it's not that I didn't want to take criticism, but I wanted to do things the way I think they needed to be done. I wanted to get back to that, because Tom, he would give direction. Don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, he let Z and I and Mike and Roy, when Roy does his own stuff, he lets them do pretty much what they want to do. He gives them. Well, I mean, I can only speak to how he interacted with me and Z, because that's when I was there. But he always gave us artistic license to do whatever we wanted to do. He just said, I want 5 videos from you every week. And that's the kind of thing that's the kind of leadership, I guess you could say, the kind of direction that I can thrive under. If you tell me to do something and then you give me very little guidance on what you kind of want that thing to look like, and then you come back as being very opinionated on how the finished product came out to be, that makes my job very difficult for me at that point. It's almost like you want me to read your mind, and I can't read minds. And so I wanted to get away from that. Okay. So that's pretty much why I decided to do this. Believe me, I was super like, there was a point at which I was like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. But, and I had the conversation with my wife. I said, I don't know if I can do this anymore, but at the same time, I can't not bring in a paycheck. And she was like, well, are you happy? And I was like, no. But that, in my mind, that didn't compute. Am I happy? That's not part of my thing. I need to continue supporting the family. That's doing my part. I'm not the only one. My wife works as well, but I need to keep doing my part to support the family financially. The part of are you happy? That's not relevant. Right. So, but she was like, look, it's affecting your life away from work. You're not just sour at work. You're now being sour in other parts of your life as well. And that's not good. That's not good for you. That's not good for us. And so we had a conversation. She was like, you got to quit. you got to walk away. And I said, and I told her, and it was true, I haven't walked away. I haven't quit a job like this ever in my entire life. I've been laid off. I've been fired. So, I'm not a saint or anything like that, but I've never told an employer, I can't do this anymore. It was scary. It was scary. Sure. And it still kind of is from a certain point of view, but I'm choosing to try to not live in that fear, because if you live in that fear, it becomes toxic. So, and my wife's really good about keeping me out of that place of living in that fear, because if you do, it just permeates. You become bitter and all of that kind of stuff. If you're always afraid of what might happen next, instead, we're still very mindful, and we're still very. We don't know how this is going to work out, but we're trying to remain very positive going forward, because we have a very community minded approach, and I think that's what's going to sing to people more than anything else. I can't cover everything new, of course, and I would beat myself into the ground trying to. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to be covering old stuff. We're going to be covering new stuff, but it's going to be stuff that I want to cover. It's not going to be what anybody else wants. It's going to be what I want to cover. Sure. And yeah, I'll take feedback from the audience, what they want to hear about and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, it's this is what I want to do, So anyway, I'm about done. I'm going to start. I've got this Army Painter has this stuff called glistening blood, and it's an effect paint.
Ooh. I haven't seen the effect paint.
I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to start putting this on him because he looks like he's been tearing through a bunch of humans. So we're going to.
Yeah, I did a little bit of blood on his claw.
Oh, he's just a baby. Look at him. He's just a baby. He doesn't have any gore. He's just a baby.
The fight's just getting started. Real quick.
This guy's gonna be post-fight. I'll guarantee you
that. So real quick, Chris says striking out on one's own would be what Emperor Palpatine would consider absolute power.
Power! Absolute
John Reed says, thanks for your vulnerability, Sam. Six World finally showed up. Usually he's here much earlier. And I'm just teasing Six World. And Whoop Six says wants to know how you find the speed paint so far.
I'm enjoying them. I mean, here's the effect. I mean, the effect is really good, right? I mean, this is my first foray into it, and I know you can't see the purple. Shut up, Brian. But this is actually pretty neat. I mean, I would be absolutely cool with playing a game with this mini right now. And I've done a little bit of detail work with the metal parts, but this is pretty neat. I like it. So cool. I'm enjoying them, to answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, like it's been actually pretty interesting to watch you while we're doing this and see how easy and quick they seem to be going. So that I am just nervous about using speed paints.
Yeah, well, that's where I was, brother, and I kind of still am. I mean, I'm even as I'm putting this this glistening blood on here, I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see. But I think it's pretty neat. This is just kind of I don't know if I'm putting on too much of this stuff, but he's going to be nasty after I get done with him.
All right,
people.
Okay, so then let's see. Let's. I mean, we've been dealing with a lot of who Sam is, and first off, very interesting. It's been absolutely fun to listen to. Thank you for humoring my questions. But let's do this. All right, now anytime people find out that I like to play board games, I always get the question, which one's your favorite? How often do you get that question?
I get people asking me that question all the time.
And how good are you at answering it?
Not good at all. Because usually people are like, what do you want? What's your favorite game? And it's like, I can tell they're like saying, is it Monopoly? I know that's what they think in their minds. And so it's like, I don't know exactly what to say to them at any given moment in time, but it's like, that you got to say something that they're going to at least be able to say, oh yeah, I know what that is. Or maybe I've heard that one before, but usually you can't. If the question is, I'll be absolutely honest with them. I'll go back to one of the most recent times. Well, not most recent, but one of the times I was asked that question was at a launch event, which was basically where it's for our church, and they have these city groups, and there's a city group launch event where you can kind of you go for a month to weekly meetings to kind of learn what the city groups is all about. And then they will split up the group based on likes and dislikes. And you'll join a city group with that group of people. And so that's what I did. It's right after I moved into town, and I didn't really know anybody other than my ex and my two kids in town. So I needed to find a group of people, and I had a couple of friends that were from the board game community. They came in, and JT is one of the guys that helped me move into town. That's the first time I met JT, was when I pulled up to my house and started unloading my truck. And he and I are still good friends, and he's on our channel frequently. But during that get to know you section of that launch event, I told them that I worked for a board game company, and we make board games. And of course the question Pastor Ken asked was, well, what's your favorite board game? And so here I am sitting in a group of churchgoers, and I am faced with the question, what's your favorite game? Knowing that my favorite game is a game called Blood Rage. And so I'm faced with the dilemma. Do I say what they want to hear, or do I tell them the truth? And so I said, well, my favorite game is a game that's based in Norse mythology. It's a Viking game, and it's called Blood Rage. And well, the gasps happen, and the face on Pastor Ken's face was telltale that that's definitely not what he was expecting to hear. So yeah, that made an impression, if I can put it that way. So
Sam did not get a city group. No,
yeah, I did get a city group, but it was. But yeah, all right. I'm gonna put some blood dribbling down his chest here because why not?
Real quick. So so favorite board game is Blood Rage. Favorite card game.
Card game?
Yes.
Well, so do you say card game as in game that is played with cards, or card game being game that main component is cards?
We'll say 90% of the game is cards.
Okay, 90% of the game is cards. I really like Smash Up as a game. That is a game that is 90% cards, at least.
Oh, your wife is in chat, by the way.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
Whoa! Hey. Yeah, she's taking a look. All right, so there we have. Let me put that up there so she can continue looking at it. But my wife would say Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, her favorite card game. My favorite card game is probably either there's a game called dadgummit. I am so bad with remembering games names. Star Realms, I'm just going to say that's to be said. I really like Star Realms. Ink and Gold is a good card game. That's 90%. I don't want
good ones. I want Sam's favorite.
See, but I'm not a huge card game guy though, dude.
Okay, well, the reason I ask is like whenever anybody asks me.
Oh, I do have Eye of Sky. Look at that squirrel.
Whenever anybody asks me, I'm like, that's such a hard question because do you mean a board game, a card game, a miniatures game? It's like I like all of the types of games. Like, I mean, I just got.
I got it.
He's got an answer.
Seven Wonders. That's my favorite card game.
Okay. I've only played it once. Curtis is in chat. He's played it with me. I don't think I understood it. But we only played it once. Let's see. Kaylin Burton says favorite 40K and Age of Sigmar factions.
40K was probably I really enjoyed playing Sisters of Battle. I had when I played 40K, I had a Dark Angels army. I originally had a Salamanders army, then I had a Dark Angels army. Had a Raven Wing cohort with it and everything. It was really cool. I spent so much time on my Land Raider. I had that really painted well, and somebody stole my Dark Angels army completely. The entire army. I had it. It was after a tournament, I left my carrying case, my army case, in the tournament room, put away underneath one of the tables, told the guy we were going to get lunch, came back, gone. So that sucks. But I played Dark Angels. I played Sisters of Battle. Also had an Ork Army. Ork Army was really fun to play. And they were really fun to paint as well. So I would probably say, though, my favorite, though, was the Sisters of Battle. I really enjoyed that army and playing through it with the different rules that they had for their faction. But that was back 4th edition. So much has changed since then.
Oh, yeah.
I also really enjoy the currently my favorite Warhammer game is Warhammer Underworlds. With all of the different factions that they have. And I don't have a faction that's my favorite, although dwarves are near and dear to my heart. So, but I just like playing that game. The Dire Chasm, Harrow Deep, they all have different names.
I have like 5 of them. I think one's still in shrink wrap.
My paint's drying out as I'm talking, so.
Let's see. Six World was saying he wants to check out Majestic 13 by Snarling Badger, which is Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions and Vince Venturella. So interesting.
That's cool.
Curtis does agree with you on Seven Wonders. He says Dominion is good, but man, Seven Wonders hits peak delight with a full set of players.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've only tried it once, so probably should get that out. Well, actually, I don't even own it, but maybe Curtis will bring it down with him from Vegas the next time he comes this way.
Well,
Kalen says he loves Underworlds. So
yes.
Yeah, we have it. And I try to not think about my shelf of shame because I think it's just the cases of shame.
It's shameful, yeah. I mean, this is turning out more like I'm painting his fingernails red. So I'm probably gonna stop now because I'll just have to work on the base later. But I think he's pretty much done.
I think mine's pretty much done as well.
Yeah.
So
get it. I don't know. Looks pretty good. Yours is definitely lighter than mine.
Well, I went with Army Painter Scaly Green.
Yeah.
So and then you went with Hulk. So
I did go with Hulk.
Different. But I think that's I mean it's been fun. I mean we just both came up with our own ideas and I mean I think it's been fun to see especially how the different paints work. I really need to practice with these speed paints. So
it worked out. I still have to go through and like some of these little down here, this little strip of material over his arm that's holding on the metal. I have to go in and fill those in, but there's a couple of them. There's some more up here too. The little stripes that go across his arm.
Yep.
So I have to go back and touch those up. And these bones that are on his shoulder right here, I'm gonna have to touch those up a little bit. Nope. Down. There we go. Those bones that are sticking through his skin right there, I got to touch those up a little bit. But he's pretty much. I would be happy with this if I don't get back to touching up those things. I would be happy with putting him on the table like that. So. I'm really happy with these speed paints. I think they're going to really make painting a lot faster, especially after I get better at it. Because it's not something – because they were originally built – I remember when the Citadel brought their contrast paints out. Everybody was like, ooh, it's going to be so easy. And then it's like I watched some of the videos. I was like, no, this guy knows what he's doing.
Well, and also it's like this is a brand new way of even painting. Like it's not like
like I said, I'm painting old school, so I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
I mean,
you shouldn't call it amateur painting hour then, dude. What's wrong with you?
Because I don't think I'm that good. Actually, I'm going to
step away.
Right. But I'm going to step away for 1 second because I do want to show you one thing, and I forgot to get it out before stream. It'll take me 2 seconds. So entertain anyone until I get back.
I'll dance a jig. No, I'm not going to dance a jig. I'm horrible at dancing. My wife will tell you this. Actually, I don't think she's ever seen me dance either because I simply choose not to dance. She, however, will dance a jig at the drop of a hat. Let's see. Kaylin, Love Underworlds. Yes. Nice job. Thank you. We appreciate that. And again, we want to make sure that well, I'm kind of speaking for Brian here, but I think we would both say that painting is not as hard as it seems. And there is, with a little bit of practice, you can get really good results with the miniatures that you have, especially with really detailed miniatures like this. They really make them, they kind of make it easy because of all the detail that's in there. So you don't have to kind of guess at what you're painting. So thank you for the words of encouragement, but anybody can. Curtis, Blood Rage has cards. You are correct, but not 90%. That was my. It's funny though. You went down the road that I was headed because cards are a main component. Not, I would say not the main component, but it's a main component of Blood Rage. I was headed that direction, but Brian stopped me.
I ruin everything. All right, so I want to show you this one because, like, so I did a full paint on the Abomination, but I actually I got told about this technique by Beasts of War, and basically,
would they look like marble?
Essentially, so what they did is they called it cell shading, and basically painted black. That zenithal white, so basically just like a light dusting of white.
Yep.
And then a wash, and then you paint the base black, and that's all you do.
Yeah.
And like that's what I'm gonna do for the rest of the orcs. But now you've got me wanting to go in and like, okay, the boss guys, they're gonna get a decent paint job.
Yeah.
But
I think it was Brian Drake from the Dice Tower. He showed me what I think he did, or what he was planning on doing. I don't know if he actually did it with his copy of Blood Rage. And what he did with his copy of Blood Rage is he generally did the same thing. He did a base coat of black with a dry brush of white over it, and then he took the contrast paints from Citadel and just the main colors, like he did the Serpent clan with yellow, the Wolf clan with red, the Bear clan with brown, and just did the entire miniature with that contrast paint so that the white that he dry brushed onto it would shine through, and it looks like statues.
Yeah.
It looks like statues, but they're in their player colors. And that's what I was really planning on doing with my copy of Blood Rage. I just haven't got around to doing it. Now that I've done this, and I might be doing that now because these speed paints would make that super easy. So we'll see. I don't know. I got to find time to do it though. That's the main thing.
Well, I will. So right now we've been going a little bit over 2 hours. You've got to go get ready for stuff. I think my wife wants me to go grocery shopping or something.
Cool.
Yeah. No, actually,
with the wife.
With the wife.
Yeah, do that, man.
Oh, no. I was making a joke. The funny thing is, like for like 2 years now or more, that has been our date night. Is we get dinner and we go grocery shopping.
Yeah,
it's like that doesn't seem very exciting, but
we have
to spend a couple hours with her.
we have a double A hockey team here in town that's part of the British Columbia Hockey League, BCHL, and they're called the Wenatchee Wild. And for a date night, I think it was last week, we went and watched their training camp all-star game, which is basically, a bunch of kids. They're 18-year-olds, from 16 up to 18. You age out when you're 19. So they're a bunch of high school kids that have been invited to possibly become part of the Wenatchee Wild next season. And it's at the end of their training camp, and it's like a little tournament. They all get split up into teams, and it's a tournament. And we watched a couple of four of their squads from that tournament. We just watched two games, shorter periods. It was only like 12-minute periods, but so it was a fun time. That was our date night last week, a couple days ago. So yeah, totally understand that. Going to Fred Meyer's, absolutely, that counts as a date, because when you got 3 kids going 3 different directions and you have to drive them everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and like for her, so luckily we both work at home, so I do get to see her, frequently.
Oh, that's cool.
She works during the day. I'm asleep during the day. I'm up all night. She's asleep. And so just finding those little times.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's actually kind of fun because I still want to get my board games in. So like we have Carcassonne, we have Alhambra, we have what's another one that we like? We've got Tokaido, all on my iPad. And so we'll be in the grocery store and it'll be like, okay, your turn. And I'll pass her the iPad while she's like looking for the spaghetti or something.
That's cool. That's cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, we're playing. We're doing a live stream at 12:30 today, and we're going to be playing Unmatched. I've got the Genie versus Houdini. So one of us is going to be taking the Genie, and the other one's going to be playing Houdini. For Unmatched, we're going to play that, and then we're going to play Dice Throne. I'm going to play Thor. Period. And she will either choose Loki, Spider-Man, or Scarlet Witch. I think those are the other 3 that came in the box. So those are the 2 games we're going to play on our live stream today. And then I've already got I reviewed Planet that went up at 9:00 today. So we get our gaming in that way. Sometimes it's just a live stream.
Sure.
But we also play games. She usually takes Fridays off because she only works 32 hours a week. She's been diagnosed with a mild case of MS, and it makes her tired a lot more faster than she used to get tired.
Sure.
Thanks COVID. Actually, thanks vaccine is what her doctor's been telling me. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but that's kind of the unfortunate thing. MS usually doesn't get diagnosed after you're 50. And she was diagnosed at 50 with MS. Usually you're diagnosed in your 30s. And then once you're 50, even if you exhibit the symptoms of MS, they say, no, it's not MS. But she was starting to exhibit the symptoms of them, and they ran a crap ton of tests on her more than once because they were like, this looks like MS, but she's 50. So it can't be MS. Really looks like MS. Okay, you've got MS now. So it makes her tired, and she is taking treatments and stuff like that, and those treatments kind of wipe her out as well. So her boss and she and her boss decided to dial her hours back to 32 per week. So she takes Fridays off basically, and so we get games in on Fridays, or we live stream. It just depends on what we want to do.
Awesome. All right. Well, so we will say our proper goodbyes off stream, but I absolutely want to thank you for doing this. You literally have a standing appointment or not appointment, but invitation. That's the word I wanted to use.
Cool. Yeah.
Appointment makes you a lot more obligated, but
I would not, and we'll talk about it later, but I wouldn't mind doing this more often, man. I really enjoy myself. I enjoy talking to you. It's great time, and I enjoy painting too. So it's a fun opportunity to do stuff that you probably need to get done anyway.
Exactly. So anything you want to shout out, everybody, if you haven't yet, more of you are here from Sam than from my channel, but that's okay.
Cool. Yeah, go.
But
both ways, man.
Yes.
Cross the streams.
Yeah, cross the stream.
No, Egon, you said not to cross the street.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of junior high bathrooms, but that's a whole separate issue.
Oh man, no! I just made the coolest Ghostbusters reference, and you got to make it middle school awkward, dude.
I mean, I ruin everything. But anyways, so besides your channel, which we've already told everyone to go subscribe to, anything else you want to shout out?
I'm going to be at Origins this year with a group called Love Thy Nerd. Love Thy Nerd is a group of Christian guys that basically, and gals, that put themselves at the service of publishers and people that have booths to run and need help running their booths. And our whole philosophy is simply, we're going to be your hands and feet. We're going to work as hard. We're going to be the best booth workers that you could possibly have. We don't proselytize. We don't do anything like that. We simply work hard, and that's our testimony. So I'm going to be at Origins working with Berkey from Game Toppers at his booth. During Origins, I'll be there, I think the schedule was 9 to 2 every day. And then when I'm not working in the booth, I'm going to be trying to make connections for the channel, but I'm also going to be spending time with people, because that's what I'm there for, is community. So that's something that's cool. It's coming up. I'm probably also going to be at PAX Unplugged this year. I'm planning on it. We haven't really got that set in stone yet, but also with Love Thy Nerd, don't know what booth I'll be at or anything like that. That'll come later. So those are the two conventions that I'll probably be at this year. But other than that, just going to be getting stuff done on the channel and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what is on the docket coming up.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed your content, obviously, over the years, but it's been fun to see you striking out on your own. So, excited to see what success that you've got coming. But other than that, folks, thank you so much for being here for amateur painting time. And I guess I'm going to keep rambling if I don't just stop. So I'm going to hit the end button. It'll end awkwardly at some point, folks. You know how this all works. And we'll see you back on Monday.